Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons 6th Edition and Semiotics. Alright, so Matt Colville, the Kickstarter Dungeons & Dragons champion of 2018, who successfully kickstarted Strongholds and Streaming for $2 million, right, was talking with Adam Cobell, the creator of Dungeon World, a while back on YouTube, a long, in-depth, like hour and a half long interview. And the two of them were commentating on Dungeons & Dragons together, right? And Matt Colville said something that has been echoing in my mind for about 2 months now. He said, the art of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition contained semiotics, right? This is a deep, deep, deep statement, right? Now, I do not have to look up words often. I'm thrilled when I have to look up words. I had to look up semiotics. Here's what semiotics means. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their use or interpretation, right? So what Matt Colville was saying is that the art of 5th edition contained signs and symbols, right? And that he was thinking about the use of those signs and symbols and thinking about his own interpretation of those signs and symbols, and also the interpretation of others of those signs and symbols, okay? And so I agree with Matt Colville. I think he was 110% correct. The art of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons contained semiotics, signs and symbols, okay? So basically, if you looked at a paladin who is holding a sword and a shield, you are seeing more in that piece of art than a paladin holding the sword and the shield, right? So Matt Colville I 100% agree with Matt Colville that the art of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition contained semiotics, right? Now here's what I've been thinking. I think Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, we have to start thinking now, right? Both the Dungeons & Dragons community and the Dungeons & Dragons design team and Wizards of the Coast has to start thinking now about the semiotics of 6th edition, because I believe that Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition will contain semiotics in the art, in the writing, in the layout, and in the distribution of the product. So on this very channel, 4 years ago, you will hear, you can look at videos of me saying at the time, I truly believed that the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Player's Handbook, DMG, and Monster Manual were some of the most important books that were being written in all of America at the time. And I think that's exactly the case right now with 6th edition. So we are entering the era of thought and design for 6th edition, right? I don't think Wizards of the Coast can acknowledge that 6th edition is being worked on, because 6th edition, with due merit, scare people. Actually, new editions scare the D&D community. They scare any TRPG community, right? Because there's a whole bunch of things that come with it, right? But the more I think about what Matt Colville said about the semiotics contained within the art of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, I'm thinking about just what, here we are again. We're looking at a book that has goals and has a list of accomplishments that need to be achieved, right? Now, one of the things that's really interesting is Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition was such a calamitous event that Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition's primary goal, I think here's what the goals of 5th edition needed to do. It needed to save the game and make sure that it was stable for another 5 to 10 years. Excuse me. It did that, okay? I also think Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition was establishing the importance, was bolstering the importance of print books, right? Now, reality is the print medium is under siege right now from technology. And very few people actually sit down and read a book anymore, right? And that's okay. It's a good thing. I understand the need for this, right? But, like, to me, if you have a novel and it has white pages and black ink. It's ridiculous to print that thing. There's incredibly few books in the world where you would really need to print that anymore, right? But Dungeons and Dragons is special, right? It came out in 1974. It's an element of Americana, and the art, the writing, and the layout are pieces of art that continue to carry the banner for print medium overall. So fifth edition was a statement, a cry to the sky that print medium should remain, and that the smartest people in the world are always going to have books on the shelves, right? And that this is going to be one of them, right? Like that, I think that was one of the things that 5th edition achieved. 6th edition is going to be in a very unique position, right? We are no longer struggling for existence with Dungeons and Dragons, right? There was, 4th edition, people have no idea how dark the days were, right? So here's the thing, with 6th edition, we are in, there's wax and there's wane. We're at wax, man. We are flush as a D&D community. We have a lot, right, to be thankful for, and our numbers are growing right now, right? The acknowledgement of the importance of Dungeons and Dragons, the number of players, the influence of the game are all growing, right? So Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition doesn't have to scrape for existence. It can do more. It can, one of the obvious goals of Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition is to make a playable, fun, enjoyable game that's worth the money that was spent on it, right? But it can accomplish so much more than that. Really, really far much more than that, right? And that is the thing that is really interesting about 6th edition is what will it say to modern society, to American modern society? What will it say to our American culture, right? What are the messages it will carry? And those messages are going to come in the game, right? There's going to be the game itself, but the game is going to carry messages, and those messages will be ported by semiotics, by the signs and the symbols within the game. Just like Matt Colville said, like Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition art contained semiotics. I, Scott Garibay, am saying that Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, the writing, the layout, the distribution, the art will all contain semiotics, right? So the people who are thinking about this right now, which should be Todd Krennic, Kate Welch, Mike Merles, Chris Perkins, Jeremy Crawford, the list goes on, right? But that's really, you're looking at the core team right there, right? And honestly, I do believe that Kate Welch will be the lead design for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. I also predict now that there's I think she's going to bring John Harper on to 6th edition. I really think that's going to happen. We'll see. All right. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But right now, it's so funny to watch Kate Welch because she uses terms like baby wizard, and she always has this big bright smile on her face, and she seems like she's having so much fun, and she should just have a ton of fun right now while she can, because I'm telling you, man, it's coming. Like 6th edition work is going to start in earnest, for real, announced, official, relatively soon. I really think that's the case, and when it does, it's going to be the weight of granite on the shoulders of those designers. This game is going to carry so much potential that it's going to be a tough job, right? Now, I think Kate Welch is strong enough to do it. I think she's strong enough to carry 6th edition from the awesome position it is right now into a new day for Dungeons & Dragons, right? So what are some of the goals that could do, right? One of them is, in my opinion, and I'm not saying that they're going to choose to do this, but I think, so one of the things is the goals of Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition will be unstated, right? People like me, TRPG commentators, are going to come in afterwards and say, this is what they intended. I think most creators, you cannot state outright what you intend with your art. You can't, right? Because you ruin it, right? Like, it's just like, a cool guy can't say, hey, look at these cool sunglasses I'm wearing, because it stops being cool, right? Like, artists cannot talk directly about their art or the goals that are being achieved with their art, right? But one of them, right, that I see that's possible is just the importance of hobbying and what is the purpose of having a hobby, right? And I think, believe it or not, I think one of the things that's a huge opportunity for Dungeons & Dragons is just declaring without declaring it, right? Like the commentators will have to declare it because the creators can't, right? But I think that that one of the reasons why Dungeons & Dragons is growing is, I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm going to say it. The growing disgust with video games. I really feel that video games are the actual opportunity for Dungeons & Dragons. There's a ton of people out there that think Roll20 matters. Roll20 doesn't matter, right? What matters is the few people who are playing Dungeons & Dragons at their kitchen table with one game master and 3 to 4 players with those physical books, right? That is the purest form of the game, right? And there's still and there are lots of people who are into Dungeons & Dragons. It's good to have them all, right? But the reality is that right there is so important because it continues to carry the importance of print medium, and it continues to carry the importance of saying, look what we're playing. We are playing something that is between game and between art and between us putting on a play and between a combat simulation. And there's really nothing like it. And it's like jazz, and it's like baseball, and it's like comic books. And there's so much potential, like just kind of squeezed into Dungeons & Dragons, right? But and from 1974, Gary Gygax moved these books forward, right? And ever since they've been radiating the brilliance upon our D&D community. But video games are the exact opposite. They were a shell of potential. And now, decades later, we see they are trash. They are utter trash. Video games are not worth the return on investment, right? Whereas Dungeons & Dragons is. When you take a weekend and you read 250 pages of content, your math is better, your creativity is better, your social skills are going to be better, your vocabulary is going to be better. If you dump a weekend into video games, no one who knows what they're talking about is going to tell you spent your time well, right? And that's where we're at. So one of the possible potentials for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition is again a cry to the sky that hobbies should make you a better person. It's just one potential message it could carry. Now that message is steeped in a lot of Scott Garibay lore there, right? And Wizards of the Coast and Kate Welch and the D&D design team, they made choose to do a completely different message, right? That's just one message I see, right? That it could possibly carry. I think the game is carrying that today, right? But I'm just so excited for, the full blossoming growth, the work that is going to happen in Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. And I am predicting now that game will be a tabletop role-playing game. It will be the flagship for fantasy tabletop role-playing game. It will be an element of Americana, and it will contain semiotics in the words, in the layout, in the publishing, and in the art. That book will be so layered, every word will have freight. And even now, the thought and design and writing that is happening on those books, and it really, truly are some of the most important writing that is being done in America on any books today, truly. Please consider liking and subscribing. Take care.